Welcome back into the Friday Night 360 AZ preview show. Haley Stasiak and Jordan Ham here with you. We are going to break down these Week 2 matchups. Let's start out with Pinnacle and Chandler.
Well, in the case of Chandler, they're coming off an IMG loss, but that I think that you can take a lot of positives from that loss. The defense played out of their minds. They played so well. They were going up against a bunch of 315-pound linemen. That was the average for the linemen for those are grown men. So they were able to get in the backfield, make plays, limit this high-powered offense of guys that are going to be basically going all over the SEC and Ohio State and the ACC. One thing to keep an eye on, though, no Jacob Conover. He sprained his AC joint. Coach Iguano said he's going to be out for the next couple of weeks. Billy Bolger is the backup. He's the one that came in for Conover when he got injured. He has a pretty good arm. He's very well built. He's actually spent some time as a tight end as well, so pretty athletic, a big guy. But that could be something to certainly keep an eye out for. I mean, Conover last year against Rattler, it was a very back and forth matchup of basically who could be more poised. They would get flushed out of the pocket, and it would just be 15-yard run after 15-yard run for both of them. One other thing to look out, though, for Chandler, I think there could be a body blow theory situation here. Bruce Feldman has a theory that after you play a team like Stanford, where you go up and just you get beat up, you may have a bit of a hangover the next week when you're facing especially a fast team like Pinnacle. So we'll have to see if Chandler is able to do that. It was a game on a Saturday, so that's one less day to recover. So we'll see. But at the end of the day, this is two really good teams coming together. But at the same time, I think everyone's waiting for this matchup potentially in the playoffs. Obviously, if Chandler or Pinnacle are able to pull this one out, it's going to be a huge win for them. But we saw that happen with Chandler and Mountain Point last year, early in the year. Mountain Point punched Chandler in the mouth, and then Chandler was able to get revenge in the state tournament.
With Pinnacle, we spoke with head coach Dana Zupke on our AZ Audible segment this week, and he told us that the key in practices is eliminating the mistakes. In the first two games, they had 7 turnovers. And, I mean, we've spoken a lot about Spencer Rattler. If you haven't seen our documentary on our site, be sure to check that out here. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the state. So that Pinnacle offense, you mentioned that Chandler defense, shutting down Spencer Rattler isn't the easiest thing to do. And then you've got guys like Hayden Hatton at wide receiver and Thans Dixon at linebacker that are backing up both sides of the ball. So, yeah, Chandler's coming off that game. You mentioned they have one less day of prep, but I think Pinnacle can put up a fight and kind of challenge Chandler further.
Oh, absolutely. I think Pinnacle is definitely ready for this game. And one thing that Coach Zupke said in that segment was that they have a lot of young experience. Guys that, I mean, Spencer Rattler played since he was a freshman, and a lot of his receivers, a lot of his linemen are multi-year starters. So they might be juniors, but they could have 2 to 3 years of experience at the varsity level already.
Next up, we've got Desert Mountain at Notre Dame Prep. Jordan, you've seen Desert Mountain play, and you are pretty impressed with this team.
I am. I was very impressed with how they handled Mesa this past week. The offense, there's just a ton of weapons on that offense. Kedon Slovis is the quarterback, 8 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, takes great care of the football. He's getting coached by Kurt Warner, so that obviously has to help. And then this receiving core, Max Walker and Josh Walker. No relation to those two, but two very good receivers that are pretty versatile. Nick Hill's at running back. He's a multi-year guy. And the thing is, a lot of these guys are juniors also, so they could really grow into something pretty special. And then Brandon Cron, he wears number 81. The last two to wear 81 at Desert Mountain were Mark Andrews and Cade Warner. And I'm not going to put that comparison on him. That's not fair. Frankly, I don't even know if that's in the same ballpark. But he is a big-bodied number 81, and it just looks familiar for Desert Mountain to have that. He had a pretty nice touchdown against Mesa. And then in this game, they're playing Notre Dame Prep. Braden Narveson is Desert Mountain's kicker. He has a huge leg, hit a 58-yarder last week. And then on the other side, you have Notre Dame Prep Slater Zellers, one of the top long snappers in the entire country. He's committed to Cal. Narveson is a Iowa State commit. So some pretty good special teams in this game.
We talked about Notre Dame Prep's tough start or tough season in 2016. They're off to a 2-0 start. A win here against this team, obviously, like you've just mentioned all that talent with Desert Mountain. It'll continuously set the tone for this 2017 season. A guy to watch in this game would be Cole Fisher at running back. He's already got 241 rushing yards, and their offensive line gets things done as well. So Notre Dame Prep, Desert Mountain, pretty good matchup for week 2.
Yeah, and Cole Fisher had the game-winning touchdown in overtime against Desert Edge, and he's really a leader. I got to talk to him this summer. When he speaks, the rest of the team listens. So that's a guy. He's an impressive young man in terms of that. Very mature in the way that they kind of handled this situation. They had no spring ball, they had no playoffs last year, but they're very hungry, and I think that they know they have a pretty good opportunity with close to 50 seniors on this roster to make some noise.
Sabino at American Leadership Academy. Jordan, this is one that you're going out to. What are you most looking forward to?
It's a rematch of the 3A state championship, and that was a pretty darn good game. Alex Bell is the quarterback at Sabino, and he was in an interesting situation last year because he was quarterback part of the time, and then Drew Dixon, who's now at U of A, they call him Baby Cam for Cam Newton. He is a very impressive athlete. Part of the year, Baby Cam was at quarterback, and then he was at wide receiver. But Bell has really progressed nicely throughout his career. He's been a multi-year guy to get a lot of minutes and things like that. And then Luke Moran is a wide receiver for Sabino that I really like. And then on the other side, American Leadership Academy, Bujon Boyd. He's a receiver definitely to keep an eye out for. I know he was very integral to their state title run last year. So excited to see, head out, see a Tucson school, also see a South Valley school, and check those two teams out.
The next game we've got is Liberty at Arcadia. Arcadia's had a pretty tough start to 2017. They were shut out by Williamsfield 68-0 in week 0, and then in Verrado they lost 56-7. So this week is going to be no different against Liberty. Liberty is off to a 1-0 start. They won against Boulder Creek in week 1. Arcadia is really going to have to put the pressure on Liberty quarterback Ryan Bendel. Their pass game's pretty strong, so just keeping an eye on that, hoping Arcadia can turn things around in this game. And Liberty's got a really good team this year, though, so that'll be interesting.
Yeah, and in the case of Arcadia, we heard Jose talk about the Moranas and the Desert Edges having to have a tough start to the season. In terms of the quality of opponent, I think Arcadia definitely falls under that umbrella as well.
Gilbert at Campo Verde. Jordan, you know a lot about this Gilbert team, and Jack Plummer, you've had the pleasure of speaking with him. They were off to a pretty good start as well, so what is it with this Gilbert team that stands out most? I
think it's just experience. This is a team that has roughly 30 to 40 players on the roster. When you look at the 6A rosters, that's about a third of what a Chandler might put out in terms of quantity. But Jack Plummer, a very impressive quarterback, has a huge arm. He really wanted to limit his interceptions this upcoming year. He didn't like the TD to interception ratio last year. He opens the season with 5 touchdowns, no interceptions. They've already matched their win total from last year. And I really like what Derek Zellner's doing as the head coach over there, building these guys up. And a guy to keep an eye out for, Corvin Otones. He is had a huge game as a wide receiver, but he was also their leading tackler last year. A very tall, lanky player, can play some linebacker, can play the wide receiver position. So he's a guy that I think his recruitment could pick up a little bit as the season progresses. But they definitely do have some playmakers, the Tigers do.
Campo Verde is also 2-0. For this team, I'm watching linebacker Jade Fletcher. He's got 19 total tackles, and 14 of those are solo. First 2 games, haven't seen him play personally, but he's going to be a guy that's kind of a threat to Gilbert.
Yeah, and while we're on the topic of recruiting, Jaden Lee is an offensive lineman for Campo. He's been getting some looks. I think some attention will be brought to him as well. This is a very deep year for offensive linemen in the state, but I think he's definitely a quality offensive lineman.
That's all we've got for you this week on the Friday Night 360 AZ preview show. Thank you so much for joining us. Be sure to check out Eric Sorensen's Zone Read and more of our high school content on sports360az.com.
And make sure to use that Friday Night 360AZ hashtag if you're out at a game. Send us photos, videos. We'll be sure to retweet it and help share what's going on in the high school scene. Thanks for joining us.